Welcome to the Explainer. How much can a single day really tell us about the state of the world? Well, we're about to find out. We're going to look at the headlines from just one day, January 8th, 2026, and uncover a pretty powerful story about a planet that seems to be pulling apart at the seams. It all starts with a number, 500%, a number that showed up in a piece of legislation that was basically designed to weaponize the world's biggest consumer market and really redraw the entire map of global energy. And then there's another number, 66. That's how many global organizations the United States decided to just walk away from, pretty much resigning from its role as the architect of the international order we've known for decades. But this is about way more than just tariffs or treaties. What the headlines of January 8th really show us is a world at a huge turning point, where the whole era of interconnected globalization is giving way to a new age of, hardening frontiers. In politics, in technology, and even in our culture. So if you zoom out, the big picture for the day is a global order that is actively, and I mean actively, fracturing. We're seeing this deliberate pivot away from international cooperation and toward building new walls, national, digital, and even personal ones. Experts actually have a name for this. They're calling it the Great Decoupling, and it's this fundamental shift where countries, companies, and even our cultures are pulling back from shared systems, building these new kinds of walls, and putting self-interest above everything else. And listen, this decoupling thing, it is not just some academic theory. On January 8th, we saw it become a harsh reality through some incredibly aggressive moves, both economically and territorially. The main event was this thing called the Sanctioning Russia Act. And its mechanism is honestly brutally simple. It basically tells huge economies like India and China, stop buying Russian energy, or every single thing you sell to the US gets hit with a 500% tariff. It would make their products impossibly expensive for Americans. And get this, at the very same time, the US kicked off this massive retreat from global cooperation. It exited 66 international organizations, including big ones like the World Health Organization and the UN's climate change body. This created this huge leadership vacuum, and guess who stepped right in? China, immediately pledging $500 million to the WHO. This new, aggressive approach doesn't stop with treaties. It extends to actual territory, with a renewed focus on taking over Greenland, which, is a self-governing part of Denmark, a fellow NATO ally. The strategic value there is just immense. We're talking Arctic defense and a massive wealth of rare earth minerals. And the new tone was just, wow, unmistakable. The White House press secretary made it crystal clear that a military takeover is not off the table. As you can imagine, that prompted a swift and unified backlash from European leaders, who all insisted that, no, Greenland belongs to its own people. But here's the thing. These new walls aren't just being built between nations. This fracturing is also happening right here, in our pockets and on our screens. And it's creating all new kinds of frontiers. And, as it turns out, all new kinds of dangers. So let's pivot and look at the digital world, where the consequences of these new, isolated spaces are becoming dangerously clear. They're creating these echo chambers where harmful ideas can just spread with devastating speed. This digital isolation has a real-world cost. I mean, just look at the rise of viral social media challenges. They spread like wildfire in these digital bubbles before platforms can even react. We're talking about over 100 deaths from the blackout challenge and thousands of hospitalizations from the milk crate challenge. We're even seeing a full-on retreat from what was supposed to be the next great digital frontier, the metaverse. Meta has officially pulled the plug on the whole project after losing astronomical amounts of money, because it turns out users prefer real faces and authenticity over digital avatars. Who knew? So as the world outside starts to feel more fractured and uncertain, our culture seems to be doing the exact same thing as our geopolitics. It's looking inward and backward, searching for comfort and safety. I mean, just take a look at the blockbuster movies predicted for 2026. The entire year is dominated by sequels, prequels, and reboots. From Toy Story 5 to Dune Part 3, it's clear Hollywood is leaning into the safety and certainty of what's already known and loved. And this isn't just happening in movie theaters. Nostalgia has basically become the primary language of digital culture itself. One of the biggest trends on TikTok is a mashup of that awkward dance from the 1965 A Charlie Brown Christmas special with a modern Glorilla track. It's the perfect symbol of our culture just mining the past for new content. So when you connect all the dots from this one single day, January 8th, 2026, a really clear pattern emerges, doesn't it? But it also raises a huge question. What is the real price of all this decoupling? We've seen this dramatic shift from global engagement to this idea of maximum pressure, from those 500% tariffs and military threats over Greenland, all the way to the cultural retreat into the safety of nostalgia. The conclusion is pretty hard to escape. We're building new kinds of frontiers everywhere. And this brings us to the final, critical question this one day leaves us with. As these walls, the geopolitical ones, the digital ones, and the cultural ones, as they all get higher and higher, what shared ground, what common understanding, and what future possibilities do they all risk losing in the process?